start thinking about if MS hadn't happened and you hadn't had time to sit and think and be and bring up something in you that was buried that you weren't even allowing to come to the surface. Maybe you're a fabulous writer. Maybe you're a comedian. Maybe you're a poet. Maybe you have some songs in you. And so we just have no idea what those things are. Each of us is so individual, right? And so sometimes you don't know what is going to come out of you until you allow it. And many times in life, we're so busy surviving that we don't get to a place where we allow it. And so we have to trust too. We have to trust that, okay, God, this obviously wasn't my plan. All of this happening to me. I can't go down the path that I saw for myself. So what else? And honestly, if you just sit in quiet and solitude and you ask God to reveal it, then you'll start to have things will start coming into your path. It really will. But we have to trust.
This is On My Nerves, MS Unfiltered. An MS diagnosis can change the path that you're walking, but it doesn't change the purpose of your calling. Today, we're talking about how to rediscover your calling, uncover the clues God has already placed in your life, and move forward with hope, no matter what challenges you face.
Well, today we have Miss Rebecca with us today, and she's going to talk to us about purpose. We love her. We work with her. We want to introduce you guys to her. So, Miss Rebecca?
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Michelle. I'm just so honored and blessed, you guys, to know these two. You guys have been listening. You know how sweet and genuine and loving they are. And I get to work with them on the On My Nerves podcast and help to assist in getting this out to the world so that people can be blessed by it. So it's a wonderful thing. But we were talking about episodes and I told them, I should record an episode with you guys about purpose because that is something that I am called to do. So I can tell you a little story about how I was called to do it. Is I had went to a week-long prayer thing. We went every day and it was very intense praying. It was the first time I've ever done anything like that. Very intimidating to me. And at the end, we had to stand up at a microphone and tell what God did in our heart. And I was blank when I was standing in line. I was paranoid. What am I going to say? I know I felt so many things, but I didn't know what God did in my heart. And so what happens is I get up to the microphone and all of a sudden God just downloads this to me. And what he tells me to tell people is they cannot live on their purpose because they do not know how I knitted them together. And so people need to know and understand how they are knit together. They need to know and understand the purpose that he has for them. Otherwise, how can they live in their purpose? And so this isn't something you're taught in school. It's not even a Bible lesson. And so how are we supposed to know this? And so many people are adrift. So this is a lot of what I do is I help people to understand and hold up a mirror to them of what I see in them, that of who God created them to be and how their purpose is playing out. And then I develop programs out of that and offers and different iterations of that and help people brand it and bring it to life. So that's really essentially what I do. But I know from what I've learned about you guys and what you're going through with MS, which has been so, wow, I did not know. I had no idea this invisible disease. I thought, wow, I think your audience could really benefit from hearing these things and these little tools that I have to help you to see it clearly.
Yeah, that's a great idea because oftentimes, I'm not going to say 100% of the time, but really close. When you are diagnosed with MS, you lose focus of what your purpose is.
Oh, yeah.
Or do you even care what your purpose is? Because you're trying so hard to live, to exist, survive. So this is a very good conversation because it really will create a plumb line for people who have this disease and give them a reason to seek out their purpose again, because it can get lost in the muck and the mire of living with the disease. So thank you. Thank you.
So, for us living with MS, what do you think? What would you say to someone who feels like they've lost their purpose? Because I am in the process of trying to rediscover. purpose and meaning. So what would you say to someone who is rediscovering their purpose? I don't feel like I've lost my purpose, but I'm not quite sure anymore. So what would you say to someone like me who's trying to redefine myself, redefine my interests? What would you say?
Yeah. What I would say is that MS obviously derails people's plans. It makes you have to, we've talked a lot about it on the podcast. You guys have talked about it. And it's about like, now, what do I do now? How do I do things now? I have to relearn things. I have to do things differently, approach life differently. And so I think with that, we need to remember that God's purpose for you never changes. And so whether it's MS or it's whatever, because it could be anything, and every single purpose can have an excuse as to why they're not living on purpose. And I like to liken who we are and who God created us to be is that we are a seed, just like any other seed. And we were designed and created to do something in this world and be something in this world that no one else can be. But the problem is we are planted in the soil of this earth that comes with troubles. What those troubles do is they keep us from shining our light into the world. It keeps us from that purpose that God has for us. We're meant to be a blessing to other people. And so if we are not living in our purpose, most likely there are people that we could bless that are kind of suffering out there because we have something to give them. We have something to offer them. And so when it comes to that, it's like, no matter what's going on, whether it's MS or it's something else, there's always an excuse, and it takes intention. It takes some intention. It takes some intention of self-awareness, and it takes intention of actually taking action on the back end of that. Right. And so I really love to help people to figure out like what is the thing that they need to know about themselves so that they can kind of get a clearer picture of what my purpose is. A lot of people feel like purpose is a destination. Purpose is not like somewhere you're going necessarily. It's who you're being. And so your purpose and who you're being and what you bring to the world is innate inside of you. You don't have to do something particular other than be yourself. But it's the being that people really struggle with, because when something like an MS diagnosis comes along, then you start like, I don't know how to be, right? And like you said, you're surviving through. You don't have time to think about anybody else in a lot of ways. And so maybe this isn't for the person who's just newly diagnosed and trying to really try to just feel okay every day and get stable, right? Because you're still working with your doctors. You're trying to get to that place where you can just function. But for the person that is really now seeking, like, I'm feeling a little settled. Tim talks a lot about how, you know, he, after the diagnosis, he went through like a period of adjustment, and now he feels like he can just sit and be, and he's really like feeling at peace and really ready, I would say, for what is that next thing for him. And I would say that this podcast is part of Tim's purpose, because it's his way of taking what he's been through and being able to, in his own loving way, to share with people his heart and his journey. And in a lot of ways, I feel like Tim's a teacher. But what is really interesting is just there's some formulas, because if we just look at the different little patterns and formulas, then we can piece things together. And I'm even going to talk to you about how we can use AI to kind of bring that all together. And it's, you know, AI is not good for just tell me this without anything. When we're doing anything for ourselves, when I'm branding people, when I'm working with people, we always want to start with our own content. And that is how we get an authentic answer. So that is what I would like to teach you guys. So I have a tool when it comes to figuring out. I have a tool called the Purpose Compass, and it's just 5 different P's. And basically the Purpose Compass points to your calling. And so again, it's not a destination, but it will point you there. And the thing about calling is you'll be compelled toward it. You won't really understand why you're compelled toward something. And so there'll be a fine line through these different P's that you can find that is compelling you towards something. And you won't even always understand it. If you guys listen to the origin of why we started this podcast, which we can link in, they talk about that Michelle just was like, had this idea that she just needed to start this podcast and she needed to ask Tim and that they were going to do this together. And she couldn't really explain why. So that's kind of how it works sometimes. So before I get started breaking down the different P's, did you guys have any questions?
No, more of a comment, because before we actually got on air right now, Tim and I we were actually talking about that, about finding our purpose. And he actually said, I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be right now.
Yeah. And God doesn't have a timeline.
No.
And that's what we have to remember. You're exactly where you need to be, and God will make it all good. So
Exactly.
we don't have to worry about that. So
Exactly.
I'll go ahead and lay out my different P's, and we will have a guide for you. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I want to know and understand and be guided toward what my purpose is, I have a complete guide for you that will walk you through it. And so don't worry, we got you. So you could just, comment purpose, and we will make sure that that gets to you. So I wanted to be able to help simplify this for you guys so that you could utilize the 5 P's for the purpose compass so that you could break it down for yourself and really just start analyzing it. And we can even use AI to do that. And so the first one is personality. So I mentioned a little bit about we're a seed and then we're planted in this earth. And I do believe that we are programmed from birth of who we are meant to be, the role we're meant to play, the part of the body that we're supposed to be. And that's like our personality disposition. So first of all, when it comes to purpose, it's always going to complement and align with who you are in your disposition. Mm-hmm. And so somebody who is, really organized is probably going to naturally fall into, more of a managerial kind of roles or, certain things that will come more innately to you because of your personality. And I also have a lot of stuff on that. If you've never studied about your personality, I have a whole little course about your personality and all the different aspects of it. It's a really cool thing to study. But the most important thing is you should feel like it feels natural. It doesn't feel like something that you have to force yourself into. So that is really important. When it comes to your personality, you're already equipped to do these things naturally. Like I'm naturally a connector. I love people. So it's natural for me to do things that deal with people. Now, if somebody who is more logical, their calling is going to be different. Their purpose is going to look different than mine. God's not going to call you to do something that he hasn't equipped you to do. And so the next P is your pain. And so this is where it really is interesting in that your pain prepares you for your purpose. Mm-hmm. And we know that adversity builds character. That's a scriptural verse. And that it really is true that our pain becomes our best teachers, not only for ourselves, but for other people. Our pain is also part of our testimony. And so our testimony is so powerful. And so that is something that we always want to realize, that God makes all things good. And so whatever things in our life that were meant to bring us down, bring us shame, slow us down, anything we had to overcome, a lot of times there is purpose in that. Not that it happened to you on purpose, but God can make all things good. And because it's happening, there is a way to utilize that. And sometimes it is the reason. And so I'm just going to give you the example of Tim has talked about this before MS diagnosis. He was going. Right. He was just working, hustling, going. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't really in touch with himself. That's right. And so he wasn't listening to himself and what his soul desire was and what God was saying in and through him, And so that is something that sometimes pain can make us stop and reflect and take, inventory. Mm-hmm. So that's really important. So pain is actually one of the biggest things of purpose. And so a lot of times people want to only look at, what I'm good at and what I want to do and stuff. But when we look at that pain, I feel like it's one of the little secret ingredients of who we are and who we become. And there's nothing. And so as I work with so many different clients about their purpose, so many times we bring into the brand things that they have overcome, and we use those as a catalyst. They aren't something to hide. They're something to bring forward. So it's really interesting. But that's just something for you to know and just think about. Then we have your power. And the thing with our power is basically you have your weaknesses and you have your strengths. The difference is we could do anything, right? We could do anything, but when you work in a weakness, it takes 10 times the energy compared to when you work in a strength. It feels effortless. And you can do it all day. You won't grow tired. And so that's what I like to call it. Instead of strength, I like to call it power. So it goes along with my formula. But it really is something that you are just so good at. And so a lot of times how you can identify that is, what do other people say that you're good at? Because sometimes it's so effortless for us that we don't even recognize it as a power. And so we almost need to think about, what have other people said that I'm good at? And here's one way to really identify it. What are you good at that people ask you for help for all the time? But here's the caveat. Do you want to do it? Because when you're in a power, it's so effortless for you and you enjoy it so much that you want to. So you could be, that's kind of like how you can tell. Is it a skill area? Is it something I just have knowledge of that I'm just decent at and they just think of me for that? Or is it something that I'm actually really, really good at? And so that's the way you kind of determine which level it is on, because we can do anything. We can learn anything. We can grow in any area. But there is one that plays into that, and that is your past. And so, of course, in our past, it kind of reveals our pain, but also what our past does is our experiences. It reveals what are the things that we've done and experienced in the past that have prepared us for something maybe special today. So is it maybe that you had learned a foreign language? Is it that you grew up in a family that had a particular kind of a business that gave you a lot of knowledge about something that other people wouldn't have knowledge about? And so when we really start thinking about the different things that we've experienced in our life and in our past, what did that teach us? What do we know that we can bring forward? Because we can talk about a topic because we have knowledge in it, but then you add your power and your personality disposition to really take that to the next level. You got to be in the right role within that topic, but it really can lead you to understanding a little bit like, oh, I know how to do that. That's something that I can offer. That's something that I can do. My experiences of me trying to build an online course taught me so many things that I've been able to serve a lot of people through that. And if I didn't know the things that I know by trying to do those things on my own and learn them through my experiences, then I wouldn't be able to be the identity coach that I am now, because I've gained a ton of experience through it. And so I understand like how it all comes together. So it makes it better for me. And then the last one is your passions. And so, people are kind of on the fence about like different, like some people say if you follow your passions, then that's going to lead you to exactly what you're supposed to do. And some people say, keep your passions and what you do for work separate. But I really love what lights you up. What is it that lights you up? Because if it lights you up, then you're going to be excited about it. You're going to bring an enthusiasm. You're going to bring positive energy to it. And you're going to get so excited. My husband, he loves Lego, and Lego lights him up, and he loves to talk about it. He loves to do it. It helps him relax. But he has started a YouTube channel, and who knows what will come of that. But, it's him following his passions. And so we need to look at that. It's definitely something about that. But what's really cool is when you're really looking at purpose, it's taking all of those things into account. Like I said, I have a guide for you, so it will walk you through it and help you get to the end. But what we can do is we can kind of look at each of these different areas of the purpose compass and say, okay, I have kind of written my answers to each of these. Now, what do I do with all of this information? Because to me, it's just, this is my life. I don't know. If I knew, I would already be living on purpose, right? And so what we can do is use AI. And that is one great thing about AI is we can put all of our answers in there and we can ask AI, here is my situation. Here is my diagnosis. This is where I'm currently at in my MS journey. And then these are the answers to these things. I'm trying to figure out what I might be able to do next. What is my next move? I'm ready. I'm feeling my heart fill up. And I know that I'm ready to do something. I just don't know what. Help me figure it out. You could literally talk to AI like a friend. It doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to have a perfect prompt to put something in AI. You could literally do the microphone and just start talking into it and telling it about who you are, where you're at in your MS journey, answers to these questions when you've thought them through when you do the guide. And then you can say, okay, now I would like you to help me to try to figure out, what are you seeing that's in common here? What are you seeing? Is there a fine line between some of these things that I enjoy doing, that that I've had experienced in? What is that thing? And it's crazy how things will come forward. So for me personally, it took me a long time to figure out where I could say, this is my purpose. And it was like, okay, I love travel, shopping, sunshine, like people, like, okay, like what can I do with that? Well, what's really interesting is where there's a fine line with that is I love to discover. I am like a treasure hunter. And so in all of those different things that I love to do, it was like, okay, I'm like this treasure hunter. And so I do it in people. I will start talking to people and I will just get out so much information about them because I'm so interested. I do it when I'm shopping. I do it when I'm traveling. And so it is like, that is something that's a interesting little talent that God gave me that I can use, and it's part of how I do things. Because if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be able to get things out of people to brand them properly by, being curious.
Right.
So that's just a little example. Can you guys, when just thinking about this, can you identify any fine lines for you?
Yeah. For me, I enjoy travel. I enjoy travel. I like discovering new people, communities, etc. But for me, a lot of my struggle has been, I don't want to have to learn how to do it another way. I'm stubborn. I don't want to have to. I'm forced to, but I don't want to. So a part of my journey, a big part of my journey, is learning how to be okay with doing things differently.
That's really good
I still
insight.
struggle sometimes.
Yeah, I think most of us would, but it's even in that struggle could potentially, you're helping people because there's other people that feel that way, so when you talk about it and you bring it forward because it's part of your experiences, then, that is part of your story. So let's just say, for instance, that Tim did this exercise and he was like, well, I love to travel. This is where I'm at in my MS diagnosis. This is, the budgets that I have and stuff. I really want to travel. How could I make this into something? How could I start doing something? And nothing ever just necessarily explodes overnight, but you can start pursuing it, right? So what you could potentially do, and I'm just throwing something out there to just show people how it can work, is what if you were to create like a YouTube channel where you were just taking videos, you were deciding of places that you could go and accommodations that help you now that you've had to adjust. And you could literally do a video about, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm trying to do. This is what I need. This is what I'm finding isn't working. This is the ADA stuff that doesn't have, or this is the hotel that does have the ADA stuff, or this is why I went on this tour, or this is why I did this. And so you could literally incorporate MS and travel and do something where you bring information to people and help solve the problems as you solve them for yourself, and you're just sharing with people. So it's just like one tiny example, but
Well, I understand that, and I think that's a good idea. But what if I don't want to? I don't want to live in MS. I don't want to. I don't want MS.
true. You want to completely disconnect, right?
Right. I just want to live.
So this is what's cool is when you start thinking about if MS hadn't happened and you hadn't had time
Right.
to sit and think and be and bring up something in you that was buried that you weren't even allowing to come to the surface. Maybe you're a fabulous writer. Maybe you're a comedian. Maybe you're a poet. Maybe you have some songs in you. And so we just have no idea what those things are. Each of us is so individual, right? And so sometimes you don't know what is going to come out of you until you allow it. And many times in life, we're so busy surviving that we don't get to a place where we allow it. And so we have to trust too. We have to trust that, okay, God, this obviously wasn't my plan. All of this happening to me, I can't go down the path that I saw for myself. So what else? And honestly, if you just sit in quiet and solitude and you ask God to reveal it, then you'll start to have things will start coming into your path. It really will. But we have to trust. And that is where just knowing and standing firm and like, no, I do have purpose. I am here for a reason. This isn't, like you said, it's not just about all MS, but we can take something like MS and make it good. We can utilize that to talk to an audience that we can really help as well. So, but you can totally disconnect from it too, because maybe it's that somebody found that they love to paint, or things that they had to because they had to change what they used to do. They used to go play sports, right? That was you, right?
Right.
And so now I can't play sports, but what else is coming forward for me? Maybe you would like to coach. You could still do that in some capacity, because it doesn't take you out there on the field playing or something.
Okay. I receive that.
I love that you're always challenged. You're always that one that is like, wait a second, and you challenge whatever it is. And that's good because people are thinking those things. So you're always that great voice for them.
Well, good. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think that's very important. And thank you for that, Bex. Thank you for laying it out that way for me, because I struggle. I struggle with having to figure out how to do things differently. Because what? What? No. What? Why? Why is this? What's happening?
You like it predictable, apparently.
Right. And I think that as I have released the control of it, I think that I'm more open to kind of walking into whatever else it is that is for me out there.
Yeah.
You know.
And you're not the only one in that. So many people that I've heard their stories where they had all this, and I don't want to call you egotistical and all, but I just like to refer to it as ego, because it's kind of like the ego is the thing that's keeping us from God's best for us, right? And so they maybe in their ego, they use their talents and their experiences and their capabilities to build something that they realize at some point, this is not for me. And I'm not happy. And this isn't what I know that I'm out of alignment. And so then they have to allow themselves to let go of that plan and that what their experiences and what maybe it was even making money for them. Right. I had a very successful business working with children, but I always knew that I was good at it. I was capable at it, but it was like misaligned in my heart. I knew that wasn't what God wanted me to be spending all of my time and energy on. And I think most of us will get this, especially as you age, you'll get that. Now, Michelle's lucky that she found what she loved to do from a young age, and she's still working hard at that, being a pharmacist. So,
yeah, it found me.
Yeah.
And didn't let me go. But yes, I did. I realized at 12 what I was going to do. But and because it requires so much of you mentally, it doesn't it didn't let me go. So in order to do it and do it well, you have to always be engaged. You can't disconnect from it, because it's just that's what medicine is. I mean, in order for
Yeah,
you
and
to take care of patients, you have to remain abreast of what's happening and what's going on. So it's there. But to your point about purpose, my purpose became more, I used this word, but this phrase before, it was fleshed out the longer I practiced. Because when I first started, it was one thing. And then as I moved along, because I've been practicing a long time, but as I've moved along and as I've had multiple sclerosis at the same time, I don't see people on a screen. I see people like me, because I am you. I am a patient, but I'm also a pharmacist. So when I'm doing my work, my career, I'm thinking of what it feels like to be the patient, and how you expect your medication to be dispensed to you, how you need somebody to explain it to you, how do you need somebody to make it clear for you, how do you need to make somebody be honest with you, how do you need for somebody to comfort you. Right now I'm not in a position, I'm not working where in the hospital anymore, where I was patient facing. um I'm at another facility now. Neither one is good or bad, but they both are pharmacy. But when I was in the hospital and the patients were right in front of me, it added a different dimension to practicing pharmacy, because these people were me. They were legitimately in a place where I had been. Um, I was a patient in the very hospital I worked in, actually. So when I was talking to the patients, I was talking to, in my mind, me. And so it makes it, and I knew how I felt when I was in the hospital. I was able to have a reference point because I know what it's like on the other side. But I pretended oftentimes when I went to talk to patients, they know nothing. So I explained to them, almost over explained to them, because I pretended like, I know you're scared. So I'm going to talk to you like this is the first time you've ever heard this. And it seemed to get very good results in terms of patients felt comfortable, because that's how I would want to feel, is comfortable. So as far as purpose, my purpose was discovered as I've been moving along. It didn't happen at one time. It happened as I was walking through life. That's when it
Yeah.
happened.
But you're very curious about understanding things and understanding things deeply, and you have the patience to read things that are really complex, and then you can reiterate those to people. And it sounds like you've really implemented your caring nature, your loving, kind, I see you kind of a way of being into pharmacy, which is really beautiful. And so,
Thank you.
even so, that's where it can look so different for people, in that you're fulfilling your purpose of being nurturing and caring, and somebody who is going to figure it out and is going to put in the work to do that, and tenaciously so. And so those are all giftings that when you combine them together, that you get this special gift that you then get to give the world. Regardless, it could, even if it wasn't in pharmaceuticals, it could be in something else. That's kind of the special sauce that you bring to every scenario.
Well, thank you for
You know,
saying that, because I've never thought of it as a gift. I just I just thought I was born like this.
yeah,
And
often we don't see the things that other people see. And that's why it's really good to work with somebody. And that's why I started calling myself an identity coach, because I so into this whole thing about identity, because I saw how many people had no clue about who they were.
right.
And even myself, who was seeking it was like, who am I all my life? It took me a really long time to kind of like fully encompass and understand, like, okay, because sometimes I think we want to be like, that's it. Isn't there more? Like, I want to
Right.
be more fabulous than that. But,
Right.
we are perfectly knit together for exactly what it is that God has called us to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's incredible, the way that we show up, and it's always enough. And
Right.
it doesn't have to be, this fabulous thing.
Right.
It's just, it is what it is. It is who we are, and it's the mark that we leave.
Right. Well,
So,
actually, what you just said kind of harkens back to our video with Marlon Hall on yoga. We're going to link it somewhere, but on Santosha, an enoughness. It's enough. And once you've discovered your purpose, which is what you're helping us do, Bex, and you're living in it, that's enough.
Yeah.
That's
And it's
simply
nuanced
enough.
because
It is
everyone is so
nuanced.
different.
Mm-hmm.
But having those kinds of feelings of like, I am enough, it is enough, now is enough, all of it,
Yeah.
And there's a peace with it.
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
peace.
And
Right.
then once you kind of can anchor into like, wow, I am good at that. Wow, that has been something I can see throughout my life. And that is something that people say to me that I'm good at. And I am interested in that. And then you start to put the pieces together, then it gives like this anchoring of confidence, and when you are aligned and purpose driven and working within who God created you to be and within his design, then it just begins to change your world, because then things like surviving through or making money or having to have everything perfect begin to fall away because you feel so fulfilled,
Right. Right.
And so, but it's not that God can't bring tons of money on your head, whatever it is that we need, his gifts are abundant. So there's that can always come. But the most important thing is, who are we being within our purpose that serves the world? Because your purpose will always serve other people.
Right.
Man, I think that's a fantastic point. Coming from me, I'm someone who has been going nonstop. What's the next thing? Let's go. Multitasking. I'm ready to do it. And now I feel like I've been forced to just be. And I don't think that I've ever had that opportunity to just be. And so, although it's slowed me down a lot, I'm grateful for the moment to just be, you know. And I don't know. I hope that in the moment of being, I discover, rediscover my passions. I'm not quite sure yet that I've done that, but listening to you, I know that it's possible, and I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, if we get enough people interested, we could even do some kind of just like a workshop, where we can help take people through it and help answer questions and like show them, how it works and stuff, because I'm all about giving back, and I don't want people to feel confused. I think a lot of times people will start trying to overthink things, but it really is like building self-awareness and starting taking ownership of those different little bits of like, yes, that is me. And I'm not going to apologize for that, because it may be a lot of times, and even when it comes to personality disposition, a lot of times you'll get condemned for the things that you bring. It's interesting that this very thing that is special about you, that, your shine that is really special, you will find in your life, there'll be different times and things where there's condemnation that comes on that. And that's part of, living in this world where things are meant to kind of tear you down, because it's our responsibility to grow. God plants us here, and then it's our responsibility to reach. He's always there. He's always constant and abundant. We're the ones that are the anomalies of going, up and down. So, but if we just keep growing and stay committed to growth, like you're saying, it's not fully revealed, but right now we can know and feel confident that it is being revealed. And so it's also only going to be revealed as fast as you allow it.
Okay. Okay.
Because if you're still stubbornly holding, not saying you, but just anyone, if we're still stubbornly holding on to this is the way I see it, and if it's not this way, I don't understand it, I'm not getting it because I still have my eyes fixed on. So it's like there's the scripture that says, keep your eyes fixed on the heavenly prize. And so that means we're really centered in love and in really God's will for our lives. And so without our own will being so much a part of it, so that is when things will start to come in, when you start allowing it. So if you're finding, if it is the case, like what Tim's kind of bringing up, like I just don't see any of it, and I don't see how any of this could be made good. I don't really get any of it. And I'm kind of still frustrated.
Right.
Then just allow yourself to start leaning into and relaxing into trust and openness and self-discovery and curiosity, because all of those things lead to, revelation. God says, knock and the door will be open to you. You have to knock, so you have to be curious. It's not going to just bombard you. It's not going to just fall into your lap. That's just not the way the world works. And I think that there's a reason for that, because it's going to be spoon-fed to us as we are willing.
You brought about a good point, but as you were saying, like you have to be willing. You have knock and the door will be open. Ask and it shall be given. Seek and you shall find. Got it. But the rub comes in the multiple sclerosis world, at least the one I was living in. I don't want to ask. I don't want to knock. I don't want to seek. I'm frankly exhausted. Or I'm not just tired in my body. I'm tired. I'm tired of having to work so hard.
Yes. All of it. Yes.
I'm tired. Everything is a journey. Everything is a heal. Everything takes so much effort. And I'm saying this as an MS patient before I felt better than I do today. When I was struggling, I did not have the capacity to ask those questions.
Yeah. And I mean, like, obviously when we have physical symptoms and we're going through really hard things, because it could be it's a grief, right? But grief can come from you lost somebody. It can come from your loss. It can come from having to grieving that I don't just get to feel normal, right? But I think that the scripture that comes to mind and I love is, I am the vine and you are the branches. He who remains in me, and if I remain in you, you can bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. And so I think that if you're feeling that way, and just from a spiritual way, is lean in to the fruits of the Spirit of what God has to offer, the peace and the joy and the patience and, like all of the things that you're going to need to endure this. And if you're really, really struggling, likely you're trying to do it on your own strength. And not saying it isn't existing, it's not real, it's not experiencing it, but there is something that surpasses all understanding that God brings that we cannot explain. And so that is where, if one is feeling that way, then we're stuck in survival. And like I said, it isn't just only special to people with MS. You can be that way in life with anything.
Right.
And it is a survival mindset, is a victim mindset. And so we have to really work on thinking about all things lovely and good, and really focusing on the positive things and leaning on God, surrendering to God. Like, God, I can't even move today. Help me, give me peace, give me, I'm sure so many of people have called upon and asked for something miraculous to just like get you through it, but the thing is when you ask, it really does come, regardless of what our problems are. And so that's where, of course, you have a unique journey that I do not understand. I have not had to suffer through, but I know people, I study people, I love people. And I can tell you every single person has some kind of a reason as to why they can't be, they can't do, they can't, they're just surviving through. So it really is just a different variation of the same problem.
Yeah, I was gonna complete my thought by saying, once you get past the, I can't believe this is happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
There will come a time, there will come a space where you can think, where you can ask. That time does come. That's where I was going, is that there was a day where I had no room in my heart, in my mind, in my soul. I didn't,
That's
for
right.
all intents and purposes, I didn't care.
Right.
But the day does come when you do care,
Mm-hmm.
because you do know that this is not going to last forever, that I will have space, that I can think, and that I can process, and I can think positively. I can bring good energy. I can seek out good things.
Yes.
So this is to both sides of the people. There are people with this disease. There are people on planet Earth that feel like, I just don't have space for this. I don't have the space to think about this. But there are people who have gone through that, and they have gotten to the place where they can think of this. They can, like we talked about before, space for grace. They do have the space in their minds, in their hearts, in their spirits, where they can invite goodness, and they
Uh-huh.
can invite possibility, and they
Yeah.
can invite good things. So what I'm saying is, it's a both and situation. It's not
Yeah.
it's not an either or situation. It's a both. I can be frustrated and I can have space to think of good things and invite good things. It's not a either I'm mad and I'm done with this, and or I'm just jolly all the time. One of those is not true.
Yeah.
It
And well,
is
and
both.
I think it really comes down though to, if we always wait for things to be perfect and better and good to have a particular kind of an attitude or way, why would we even need faith? Right? Like, why? That is where that really comes in. And we, and thinking about when you are so overwhelmed, thinking about Moses and Aaron had to hold up his arm. And so, like, there is times when other people will have to hold up your arms, and that's okay. And we don't have to feel shame about that. And that's just where you're at. But we still have to have a heart that opens to allow. And if you stubbornly disallow, you will drag out your pain of whatever that is. Even acceptance. I mean, Tim talks about this all the time. This is one of Tim's main messages is about acceptance and coming into that peace.
Yeah, man, it's been a journey for me. It's still a journey. I think it will always be a journey. I don't think I'll ever be okay with what is happening, but I do know that I need to accept what's happening. And so there, I'm kind of balancing the two. Um, it's happening. It's happening. Am I okay with it? Not really, but it's okay. And I think I'm getting to the it's okay part of it, um,
Uh-huh.
which is difficult sometimes, all the time actually.
And that's honest.
Yeah.
That's an
And
honest answer.
yeah, people can look at me because I'm not one. That's why I love that you guys are talking about this and you're bringing these conversations forward, because I can say these things, and because I don't have MS, somebody could say, well, you don't understand because you haven't endured
Right.
that. But I can just say that I have seen human after human after human has all of these different issues that they could use in the same way as I'm not saying an excuse, but like as a but. Um, but I also know that God's principles stand true, and you are here for a purpose, and He will make all things good. He will give you anything that you need to fulfill your purpose here on earth. He will never leave you or forsake you. And so you are not walking alone. And
Thanks, Bex. We really appreciate you. For me, you've opened the door to a new way of thinking. Not necessarily new, um, but a familiar way to think. I think moving forward, I got to get out of my own way a little bit, I think, with this, on the acceptance journey with this. Um, and I really appreciate your insight and your input today because, like I said, some days, sometimes, I just don't want to deal with none of this. Um, but listening to you, leaning into what you're saying, I think will be beneficial to us all.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. And I think that that's all that we can do is we just need each other to be encouraged sometimes because we do get stuck in the muck, you
Yeah.
know, and we have to be reminded of what is the actual truth. That, you know, it may feel like this, but there's a lot of times the lies feel really real in different scenarios. And it's not that the symptom isn't there. It isn't that there isn't a struggle, but are you believing into a lie and a mindset that is making it worse? And so, you know, Michelle, I think, is a really good living testimony of somebody who has a very optimistic attitude and what wouldn't just allow things to stop her. So she kept pursuing, well, if I can't, then how can I? Because I'm not taking no for an answer, you know, which we've heard and seen from her if you guys have been listening. So I think that our attitude really does make a difference in anything in life for us to, you know, find a success, to find a peace, to find a joy. And it really does play into it. And so, but I think if we can get back to our purpose and that we're here on purpose, that we can anchor in that and let it direct our steps. And then I think that can lead somewhere very beautiful for other people that we're here to bless.
Absolutely.
Thanks for that. Thanks. I appreciate it.
All right. Wonderful. Thanks, guys.
Well, thank you for joining us, and we will see you in our next episode. And I decided I'm going to add this as a tagline because it's true. Remember, all things are possible. So until we see you again, just remember, all things are possible. If you enjoyed us, if you enjoyed our episodes, like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you in our next episode. Good night.
Good night.
Beautiful. Wonderful, guys. Thanks so much.
This is On My Nerves, MS Unfiltered. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. None of this information is intended for diagnostic or treatment purposes.
Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Be well, stay encouraged, and we'll see you in the next episode.